Banjo Kazooie is hailed as a masterpiece for the ages. People still go bonkers for that damn game more than 20 years after its initial release. Banjo Tooie, on the other hand, it's still beloved by many, but I feel like it doesn't hold that same masterpiece status as its predecessor. Despite the fact that these two games are from the same franchise, controlled similarly, they're actually pretty different games. Banjo Tooie is a long-winded adventure that has backtracking, complicated jiggies, and lots of different minigames. Many prefer Banjo Kazooie because it's simpler and the moment-to-moment gameplay shines brighter. So how do I feel about Banjo Tooie? Let's get into this. The story mode picks up right where Banjo Kazooie left off, but 2 years later. Klungo is still trying to push that boulder off of Grunty, but to no avail. Meanwhile, Banjo, Kazooie, Bottles, and Mumbo are all playing cards at Banjo's house. Then Grunty's sisters named Mingela and Blobletta, love those names, use a giant drill called the Hag One to drill out of Spiral Mountain. Then her sisters use magic to lift, then destroy the boulder that was crushing on Grunty. Grunty then rises, but she looks a bit different, you could say. All of her skin is disintegrated off of her bones. They then notice Mumbo has snuck out of Banjo's house to spy on them. Gruntilda responds somewhat reasonably by shooting magic at him. Gruntilda then starts a very powerful spell and takes aim at Banjo's house. Mumbo makes it to the house and tells everyone that Grunty has returned, but Kazooie doesn't believe him. Grunty and her sisters leave, leaving poor Klungo behind. Bottles doesn't make it out of the house in time and dies. Part of me likes how Banjo Tooie goes for a darker tone right off the bat. It is one way that this game makes it clear this isn't just Banjo Kazooie again. After about a 9-minute or so cutscene, the player can finally control Banjo. The player is free to explore Spiral Mountain as they wish, although the only collectible available at the beginning of the game is just a Cheeto page. Banjo Kazooie start off with all their moves that were in the first game. Egg shooting, Wonder Wing, Stilled Stride, Turbo Talon Trot, Flying. It's all here, man. It serves as a great tutorial. If one somehow hasn't played Banjo Kazooie, but they're playing Banjo Tooie, there are molehills detailing how all these moves are used. Veteran players can move right onto this part and just fight Klungo. Since the sisters left Klungo behind, he takes it upon himself to fight Banjo. He grows big, kinda like Thok in Star Wars, Fighters of Terrydactyland. After growing big, Banjo can then hit Klungo. After being hit, he'll put up a shield and start throwing potions at Banjo. After 3 hits, Klungo goes down. Banjo then meets King Jingling, who gives Banjo a Jiggy and gives him the details about the upcoming quest. But then a cutscene plays of Grunty and her sisters, where something unfortunate happens. The sister's so grunty that they're sick of her rhyming, so she just stops. And that is such a great way to ruin her character. I loved her dumb rhymes when I was exploring Gruntilda's lair in Banjo Kazooie. The 3 sisters rev up the big old blaster and suck the life out of King Jingling with it, turning him into a zombie basically. Grunty then has the brilliant idea to shoot the entire island, taking all life from it. Her sisters inform her that, while this is possible, the big old blaster will need to charge for several hours. Then Banjo Kazooie meet King Jiggy Wiggy, who opens up the first world in the game for them. Banjo Kazooie can now start their quest. Like in my Banjo Kazooie video, I'm going to take a second to talk about the general gameplay of the game and the Xbox 360 arcade version differences before jumping into the worlds. As with Banjo Kazooie, I play Banjo Tooie my Xbox Series X, mostly to justify my purchase of the damn thing. In fact, I'm jumping on that first. I have footage for the Nintendo 64 version running right now, and it is choppy as all hell. I swear they're not editing the footage in any way. Rare tried their best to squeeze as much power out of Nintendo 64 hardware, and, well, this was the result. It dips as low as 10 to 15 frames per second at times. Notes and Jinjos have been retooled, so there really isn't a difference in how they're collected between versions, unlike Banjo Kazooie. There is better sprite work, the draw distance is improved, achievements have been added, a resolution bump to 1080 is also added to make the game look smoother, but in my opinion, that performance increase, that is the biggest selling point. The game is hard locked to 30 FPS. Sure, an Xbox Series X patch that makes the game run at 60 FPS would have been neat, but a consistent 30 FPS is pure heaven compared to how it ran on the Nintendo 64. Actually, there are some more kudos that I have to give the Xbox 360 version. If one wants to, they could check out all of Banjo and Kazooie's moves by hitting the pause button and going to help. There are some Jiggy hints, which are greatly appreciated because Tooie's Jiggies are much more involved than the Jiggies in Kazooie. For example, I was missing a Jiggy in Hailfire Peaks and decided to go look for it. After about a half hour of not finding the damn thing, I finally looked at the hints section, as I didn't want to go to Google. The one Jiggy that I was missing was to save the 3 alien kids. I saved all the kids but forgot to pick up the actual damn Jiggy on the ice side. I was also missing a Jiggy in Grunty's Industries, which had the comment and the waste disposal. It took me a minute to realize that I was on the other side of where it was, but if this was the Nintendo 64 version, I 100% would have caved and just looked it up. It can really help newcomers and veterans that happen to forget where one of the Jiggies are. The descriptions are somewhat vague, so it does really help if the player has an idea of what they're doing in the first place, but I still consider it to be a great addition. So on to the actual gameplay. Banjo Tooie is a 3D platformer collectathon, not much unlike its predecessor. The point of the game is to grab Jiggies and other collectibles to unlock worlds and eventually stop Gruntilda. The main collectibles are Jiggies, and there are 90 in the game. There are 10 in all 8 of the worlds, as well as 9 Jinjo families to complete, as well as an extra Jiggy at the beginning of the game from King Jingling. These are used to unlock levels. When the player has enough, they can head off to King Jiggy Wiggy's castle to play a minigame. Once the minigame is completed, the associated world will unlock. Jinjos are cute little creatures that come in 9 colors. These guys can be found scattered throughout the game. When a family has been completed, they will reward Banjo Kazooie with a Jiggy. The black Jinjo has 9 family members, while the white Jinjo family only has 1. The other colors are somewhere in between. Musical notes have returned, but they have been retooled. They can be found in nests of 5. There's also the treble clef that can be found in each world and is worth 20 points. So every world will have 16 nets of notes for 100 notes total per world. The notes will allow Banjo Kazooie to learn new moves from Jam Jars. At least Jam Jars rhymes, which is great, especially since Gruntilda stopped doing so. The old consumables all return, which are the red feathers, blue eggs, and golden feathers. Red feathers are used for flying, the beak bomb shot, and the talent torpedo. The blue eggs can still be found, and they can be shot out of Kazooie's mouth or behind. Meanwhile, the golden feathers are still used for Wonder Wing. Empty honeycombs return again, but this time they can be exchanged with Honey Bee. It's not simply 6 equals 1 additional hit point either. This time the amount needed increases every time Banjo gets an additional hit point. However, there are plenty of newer collectibles too. The first one up is the Cheeto page. There are 25 total, and every time 5 are handed to Cheeto, he will tell Banjo Kazooie a new cheat code. These will need to be entered in the Mayahem Temple secret room. This means that there are 5 cheats that Cheeto teaches Banjo and Kazooie. These allow Banjo to hold double the eggs and feathers, be immune to fall damage, recover health over time, and turn on the jukebox in Jolly Roger's Lagoon. Other cheats exist in the game, but these aren't given to the player by Cheeto. These are learned by, let's just say, other means. Kazooie can now shoot 4 more types of eggs: fire eggs, grenade eggs, ice eggs, and clockwork Kazooie eggs. Fire eggs can be helpful with fighting ice enemies such as Chilly Willy, lighting dark areas such as Gulch Mine, or the electrical room in Grunty's Industries, or heating up cold characters such as Saberman. Grenade eggs explode on impact and have a wide radius of damage. They can also break metallic surfaces that have cracks in them. The ice eggs can be helpful in fighting fire enemies, as well as putting out fire in general. Lastly, a little robotic bird will come out of a clockwork Kazooie egg that the player can control. They can get collectibles in tight places that Banjo Kazooie wouldn't normally reach. Another collectible is the Globo, which can be given to both Mumbo and Wumbo. Wumbo takes on the transformations this time and is present in every single world. Mumbo does something a bit different in this game. Mumbo can actually be controlled by the player. The player will want to bring him to a Mumbo pad, where he can activate a spell. Unfortunately, these can take a long ass time, and there is no way to skip them. The one where he puts the giant rock in the crushing shed is a bit ridiculous. Between having both of them, combined with the giant worlds, things can get a bit hectic and confusing. It should be noted though that there are warp pads sprinkled throughout the game's worlds. These are lifesavers. So Mayahem Temple is the first stage in the game, and unlike Mumbo's Mountain, it definitely has enough meat on its bones to warrant talking about it for at least a minute or so. Wumbo can turn Banjo into Stony Banjo, which will let him do several unique things, such as fit into small gaps, speak to other Stonies, and participate in the kickball tournament. Mumbo activates the Golden Goliath, which can kick holes open in doors and reach Jiggies in high places. Banjo Kazooie will have their first-person shooter segment here, and Terrydactyland's Temple. It is easily my favorite of the first-person shooter segments, probably because the layout is relatively simple and there is no annoying time limit. There's also a mechanic where Banjo has to walk very slowly to not wake up a rattlesnake or a caveman. 3 moves are learned here, and I enjoy them very much actually. The grip grab will allow Banjo to hold on to edges if he is close enough. This solves one of my biggest problems with Banjo Kazooie. It was very frustrating to miss a jump by such a small amount. Another move learned here is the egg aim. This will allow Kazooie to shoot eggs in a first-person view, which is probably something that should have been in the first game to be honest. This allows for neat jiggies like shooting the bees to protect Bavina's farm. The last one is called the Breagle Blaster, which will allow Banjo Kazooie to do the first-person shooter segments. It is also accompanied by a fun music track. I really like the scope of this stage. It's not trying to do too much, but it still took me a good 50 minutes or so to grab everything. Second stage of Banjo Tooie is Gulch Mine, which I actually didn't care too much for before this playthrough. I thought that everything looked the same, and I went to the same places multiple times. I still get that a bit, but this actually is the stage that I 100%ed the quickest. It still has its annoyances, like CANARY Mary is annoying, the Jiggy that requires Banjo to swim through the multiple water passages can still be nerve-wracking, and that stupid dynamite minigame is not fun. Some highlights include fighting Chuffy and Wumbo's transformation to dynamite. I love being this little guy, hopping all over the damn place. Too bad the only move that it knows also hurts the player, as it literally self-destructs. The dynamite can explode big TNT boxes and open new areas for Banjo and Kazooie to explore. One Jiggy that I love is reuniting Dilberta and Bullion Bill. Dilberta is stuck in Mayahem Temple. Banjo and Kazooie have to use the Bill drill to break the boulder that is in her path. This will also connect the worlds of Gulch Mine and Mayahem Temple, which I think is a really neat idea. Speaking of the Bill drill, it is basically a better ground pound and is learned here. The other new move that is learned here is the Beak Bayonet, which can only be used in the first-person shooter segments. It will have Kazooie lunge forward, damaging enemies that are in her path. Overall, I like the theme and the music, but that feeling of everything looking the same is definitely still there a bit. It's probably lower the pack overall, but I liked it much more this playthrough than I have in the past. The theme park parody WitchyWorld, which features rides that have taken lives, is up next. Huge fan of the theme here, and I also think that the gameplay is very solid. This one is chock full of mini-games, like the Saucer Apparel, the Hoop Hurry Challenge, the Balloon Burst Challenge, and the Dodge 'em Challenge. The Saucer Apparel requires the player to get 500 points by shooting red, green, and blue targets, which are worth 1 point, 2 points, and 3 points respectively. The Hoop Hurry Challenge has Kazooie running through hoops with the Turbo Talon Trot shoes. The Dodge 'em Challenge has Banjo Kazooie riding bumper cars. They have to avoid the enemies that are after them and have to pick up enough Twinklies. Another Jiggy that I enjoyed was doing the Strength Test Carnival game. Banjo Kazooie have to use 3 different moves to break the bell. I used the regular ground pound, the Bill drill, and a grenade egg. Another Jiggy that I remember getting was climbing the stars of the Star Spinner. Getting onto that top planet, that can be a pain though. I fell the first time, which almost knocked me out. There is also a neat boss battle with Mr. Patch, an inflatable toy dinosaur that requires Banjo and Kazooie to shoot him while they're in the air. It can be hard to aim and fly though, the controls just don't feel the most intuitive. Banjo and Kazooie can also get burgers and fries from Big Al and Salty Joel respectively. These can be used later. Gobi also returns, which I just think is great. I love that in the span of 2 years, he managed to look like 50 years older. This is where the backtracking element of Tooie becomes apparent though. One Jiggy is to round up all of Bogey's kids, but this one cannot be done until much later. The Wumba transformation here is fun too. She turns Banjo to a van that has a cute little horn. It can be used to kill these stupid slot machine enemies and open up certain doors. It can also pay for attractions to open with the money that's stored in the back. Mumbo powers up the space portion of the map, and he also opens the Saucer Apparel ride. So what are the moves that are learned here? One is the airborne egg aiming, which is kinda dumb in my opinion. How is this much different than like doing it on the ground? After that, it's a split up, which I'm kinda torn about. When exploring, one will find a blue Banjo space next to a red Kazooie space. Using these spaces, a duo can split up and perform different moves. The last move learned here is the Pack Whack, which only solo Banjo can use. He will use the backpack to hit nearby enemies. This can also be used to double jump. I also love the music of WitchyWorld. It all combines to be an amazing stage in my opinion. It has a lot of cool ideas, along with decent variety to ensure that the stage just doesn't get stale. Jolly Roger Lagoon is up next, and this stage is one of my favorites. When first entered, it may not seem like that there's that much to do. The player can collect golden doubloons to pay for a Jiggy and Cheeto page, they can talk to a 3-armed pig about their swimming pool, and they can hop on the roof and mess around with the sewer system. Captain Blubber also returns, and he'll sell Banjo and Kazooie a pair of Turbo Talon Trot shoes for a doubloon. However, Mumbo can actually do something pretty neat in this stage. He adds more oxygen to the water so Banjo can breathe while swimming. The stage from this point forth takes place underwater mostly, and the result is actually pretty neat. Swimming kind of sucked in Banjo-Kazooie, but it was greatly improved in Banjo Tooie, especially the player backtracks to save their pet goldfish. I love the gimmick of breaking this fish's teeth and entering its mouth. There is also a boss fight in this stage with Lord Who Fack Fack. Great name, who is an anglerfish that can't see very well. It's similar to the Mr. Patch fight, except it's underwater instead of in the air. Similarly to shooting in the air, it can be a pain underwater, especially when one is under attack. There's also an underwater shooting game, but Banjo will need to be in submarine form to do that. Wumba, of course, is the one to transform Banjo. The submarine will allow Banjo to go down to the deepest depths of Jolly Roger Lagoon and shoot missiles. One trick I like in this stage is freezing the octopuses and the fans that lead to Grunty's Industries with the ice eggs. Speaking of the frozen eggs, they can also be used to power up the alien spaceship, which will have a Jiggy underneath it. I like the stage overall, but there are some issues here. Since a lot of the stage is underwater, I tend to get lost here a decent bit as things tend to look similar. Also, the challenge with crispy bacon can be annoying. Aiming underwater does not seem to be the most fine-tuned, and it can be aggravating to fail this with just a few mere seconds left. Kazooie can get items out of these transparent fish with a new move called the Talon Torpedo, but it just seems so finicky and can be hard to get. On top of that, this move costs 5 red feathers, meaning that it can be pretty easy to just burn right through them. Kazooie can press switches and break boulders underwater with her face on them. The Talon Torpedo and underwater egg aiming are the only 2 new moves learned here. Both of the above ground and the underwater music tracks are incredible, and I just adore this level's atmosphere. Easily one of my favorites, even with its few annoyances. Up next is Terrydactyland. Oh shit, Klungo's back. He really isn't any harder than the first time, but the dialogue that ensues is pretty great. Now Banjo Kazooie can go to Terrydactyland. As the name states, this place is just full of dinosaurs. I think it's pretty fun, but there are a couple of jiggies that really make the player work for them. Like one of them involves the player helping out this giant Triceratops. Her 3 kids all have issues. One of them has a sickness that Mumbo needs to solve using a Mumbo pad. To do this, the player must learn Banjo's new move, the Taxi Pack, and carry her back to the train. Then they must take the train to the cliffside in Isle of Hags and activate the Mumbo pad there. The train must then be brought back to Terrydactyland, where the Triceratops will run back to her mother. Another one is actually stranded in WitchyWorld, which will require the player to go there, break her free, get her on the train, then have the train go to Terrydactyland. The last one is a boy Triceratops that was born too small. Mumbo must be used again, and he could just use the Mumbo pad that is just right in front of him. When all 3 of these kids are taken care of, Banjo gets one jiggy. Wait, really? Just one? There are a few other jiggies that require a decent bit of work too. Kazooie learns how to hatch eggs in this stage. After being Terry, the pterodactyl, she will let Banjo Kazooie know that she has 4 unhatched kids. Kazooie can learn the ability to hatch eggs here, but one of the kids can't fly. So after hatching it with Kazooie, Banjo must use his taxi pack and carry the kid all the way up the damn mountain to the top of the nest. This can take a long ass time, trust me. One thing that just fell out of place but is hilarious is the stomping grounds. A giant ass dinosaur just wants Banjo Kazooie dead, I guess. Banjo can't get past until he learns the snooze pack, so more backtracking it is, I guess. Womba turns Banjo into a dinosaur. As a small dinosaur, Banjo will need to learn how to roar from an enemy, which took me goddamn forever to figure out when I was younger. Womba can also turn Banjo into a bigger dinosaur with the help of Mumbo? Yeah, Mumbo can also change the size of Womba's tent, which will in turn change the size of the dinosaur that Banjo gets turned into. It's a pretty neat idea, I guess, but man, it can be annoying going back and forth between the two. The small one can fit into smaller passageways, meanwhile the bigger one is scarier and weighs a ton. Mumbo can also make these rocks bigger here for easier traversal. Man, Mumbo is used a lot in this stage. There's a first-person shooter segment in here, too. Banjo can enter Champa's stomach and kill germs. The Rocknut tribe is pretty great, too. There are 5 of these guys that need to be blown up with Clockwork Kazooie eggs because they have no armor on their backside. Another jiggy that I love is helping the Oogle Boogle tribe avoid extinction. This can't be done the first time here, but the player will need to get food from Salty Joe and Big Al in WitchyWorld, then take this exit using the Claw Claimer boots. The player will also need to warm them up with fire eggs. The connecting worlds are just so cool. There are also 3 new moves that are learned here. I already covered 2 of them. Solo Banjo can use the Taxi Pack to pick up certain objects and characters. Solo Kazooie can hatch eggs and warm up other objects in general with Hatch. Lastly, the Springy Step Shoes are unlocked here as well. Sometimes climbing the mountain can be a pain, but I enjoy the theme here and the music is awesome. I also love how the stage connects with Cloud Cuckoo Land, but I'll get to that in a few minutes. Oh boy. Up next is the one and only Grunty Industries, my favorite stage in the game. There are numerous rants online about how the stage is just way too big and complicated for its own good, and that it just tries to do too much. On one hand, I completely get it. It took me over 2 hours to collect everything here, and this is my, 5th playthrough, I think? I probably could do a 20-minute video on Grunty's Industries alone and talk about how much I just love this stage, and how it forces the player to think. Hell, to even get inside the stage stumped me when I was younger. When the player enters the stage, the game will start them outside of the building. After a bit of exploring, the Bear and Bird duo will find a train station switch. This will open the giant doors and enable the train to pull in. The player will have to enter the world via the train to get inside the building. This is when the fun at Grunty's Industries can truly begin. The world is 5 floors of just pure mayhem that have events that are connected to each other. For example, to unlock the boss, the player will need to find a platform that is bolted to the ground on floor 3 and use the bill drill on it. This will make Mumbo Pad drop into the electromagnetic chamber on floor 2. However, to even open this door, Banjo will need to use the taxi pack and bring a battery over to this door. When Mumbo uses his power on the pad, it will deactivate the magnet. Now that the magnet is destroyed, the player will need to go back to being Banjo Kazooie, then go to Womba's tent and turn it to the washing machine. The washing machine is heavy enough for the button to register, and if done fast enough, the magnet will stay broken from Mumbo's spell. This will unlock the boss fight. Wait a damn minute, all of that unlocks a boss fight? Not even a jiggy? I may as well go over the boss fight with Weldar real quick. He will try to throw his weight around, activate the electrical floor, shoot enemies, nuts and bolts at him, and even try to swallow Banjo. When he is inhaling, Kazooie is supposed to shoot out a fire, or grenade egg, or even a Clockwork Kazooie egg. Do this a few times and Welder will be defeated. Flight pad switches can be found on the level, which will open up flight pads for the outside portion. Various windows can be destroyed and the rooftop can be reached. There are 2 smokestacks and even more windows to break up there, which will of course yield even more secrets. There are also mini-games to play here, such as blasting the barrels, packing the twinklies, or that stupid FPS segment. Much like the Dynamite one, I'm just not a fan of this one. The player has to clear the clinkers in time, and I always get lost. I admire how Rare got this stage to work so well. It has been stated by Rare themselves that this was the hardest level to develop. I'm just surprised that between Mumbo, Solo Banjo, Solo Kazooie, and the Washing Machine Banjo, and just the duo together, that there isn't a way to get soft-locked or stuck or something. That's like, what, 5 or 6 movesets to just keep in mind when developing all this? I personally think that this is the most difficult and interesting stage in the game. There are 3 moves that I learned in Grunty Industries. The first one is the Claw Claimer Boots, which can be used by Banjo and Kazooie together, or just Solo Kazooie. This will allow the duo to climb up walls where indicated. That indication will be little yellow footprints. The leg spring can only be used by Solo Kazooie and allows her to jump super high. It's basically a back jump that can only be activated when Kazooie is alone, but god damn, it just goes so much higher than Banjo. Speaking of Banjo, at least the next move is exclusive to him. He learns the Snooze Pack, which will allow him to restore health. This can be helpful as one is worn down by enemies and can be used to grab a couple of jiggies, like the one in the stopping plane in Terrydactyland or the trash compactor in Grunty's Industries. Mumbo deactivates the magnet as mentioned earlier and deactivates the giant crushers. The washing machine that Wumbo turns Banjo into can clean these 5 bunnies' clothes. Some of them require some serious legwork to get to, like the one in the first level requires a panel on a different floor to be unscrewed. This has to be my favorite stage of the game. I just love how, I get how it's intimidating for newcomers, but after a few playthroughs, I just came to love it so much. Watching the pieces of the puzzle fall into place is just so satisfying. It's a lot of work, but oddly it's work that I enjoy. I can just keep going on about this damn stage, man, but I should probably just keep moving. The next stage has a pretty cool theme going on in it. It's called Hailfire Peaks, and as the name states, there is in fact hail, fire, and a peak. The stage is broken up into 2 main segments, one filled with snow and the other is filled with lava. Both the sides have a dragon that want their pizza on the top. Once Chili Billy and Chili Willy are defeated, they will be awarded a Jiggy. They will also stop spinning at the player from above, which is just a huge lifesaver, because god, that's annoying. Like Grunty's Industries, there are some Jiggies here that require some serious legwork, or the player to think. Like the one Jiggy requires the player to turn into Wumbo's transformation, the Snowball. Turn into the biggest size. Use the warp pad to get into the upper lava area, then roll onto a giant metal button. This will activate the oil drill and it will unveil a sweet Jiggy. It will get sucked into a pipe that will lead to Grunty's Industries that only Solo Banjo can retrieve. Another Jiggy with a lot of legwork is saving the alien kids. First, Mumbo must wake up the alien with a Mumbo pad. Then the player will need to use the bill drill to free the 2 kids who are encased in ice. One of the kids is unconscious, so the player needs to be Mumbo again. At least the secret passage between Mumbo's skull and Wumbo's hut makes this less annoying than it sounds. Lastly, Kazooie will need to use her hatch ability on the last kid to warm her up. The aliens will then take off, leaving a Jiggy behind. Boggy can also be found in this stage. He will want a boiling fish that Solo Banjo can retrieve with the new move, the Shack Pack. If all the kids have been returned from WitchyWorld, his wife and kids will appear in the igloo as well. I love how brutal getting this one Jinjo is. And Jinjo is encased in ice in an ice cube that is named Mildred. We need that Jinjo, damn it, so we're just gonna murder her real quick and take it from her. I'm sure her husband George won't mind at all. Another major Jiggy involves helping out Saberman, but this one is also kind of a pain. Mumbo must use his magic on him first, then Kazooie needs to warm him up with a fire egg, then Solo Banjo must carry him all the way to his tent and on the fireside. Yes, there are warp pads, but it still takes a good minute or so. I already talked about the Snowball, which can be used to press giant switches such as the oil drill switch and the train station switch, but there's actually another transformation needed to complete this stage. And that is Stony Banjo. The stage connects with Mayahem Temple, and Stony Banjo can be activated by Wumbo in the Mayahem Temple, then he can be brought over to Hailfire Peaks. There's another kickball tournament, except the lowest score wins. I love these connected worlds, man. They're so neat. Gobi can also be found at the train station, where he can be ground pounded to cool the train so he can enter the ice side station. Poor Gobi, he just can't escape his animal abuse. 2 moves are learned here. Solo Banjo learns the Shack Pack, which will enable him to fit through small cracks and allow him to be submerged in otherwise harmful liquids. Solo Kazooie can learn to glide, which makes Solo Kazooie totally overpowered. She can access so much of the map on her own. I really like this stage. It has an awesome theme, funny moments, nice callbacks, and of course, really solid music tracks. The last stage is Cloud Cuckoo Land, and it's kind of bizarre. I'd argue that this is actually one of the easier stages. Besides Canary Mary, yes, every Banjo Tooie video, it's required by law to bitch about this part. Mashing the button on the Xbox controller just does not feel right. The rematch in particular is weird, as the player is supposed to keep a steady pace throughout the race, or else Mary will just rubber band ridiculously. Other than that, there are a few interesting landmarks here, like the giant house of cheese, the giant garbage can, and the pot of gold. The pot of gold involves a first-person shooter minigame that is honestly pretty difficult. The player has to shoot 90 of 100 jiggies on the wall in a short amount of time. There's also a robot Mumbo fight, which caught me off guard the first time I played this stage. I think it's a pretty cool boss idea. The whole idea of this stage is to separate Banjo Kazooie as much as possible. Only Banjo is supposed to go into the Jello house and the cheese house. There are floatius eggs around the stage that Kazooie needs to hatch. Solo Banjo can pick up the floatius floatium creature using the taxi pack to make him float. These are needed to get Solo Banjo around. For example, he needs to plant a seed into this spot. Solo Kazooie can get across by herself just fine, but she can't carry the seeds. The Mumbo pad in the stage causes rain to happen. This will grow the seeds that have been planted. Banjo learns the final move in the game, the sack pack, which will allow him to hop across harmful surfaces and liquids by using his backpack as a potato sack. This leads to another clever jiggy, an athletic contest with Mr. Fit. First, Banjo Kazooie will need springy shoes to clear the high jump bar. Then Solo Banjo will have to race Mr. Fit in a potato sack race. Finally, either Solo Kazooie or the duo together need to use the Turbo Talent Trot to beat Mr. Fit in a race. Solo Kazooie can also get into a giant garbage can and clear out germs that are inside for a jiggy. The Womba transformation here is the Bumblebee that was in Click Clock Wood. The bee can now shoot stingers, which can be used to pop these eye plant things. When all of them are popped, Grunty will be forced to give up her jiggy. The Bumblebee can also enter Zubba's nest by shooting a target at the top of the mountain 20 times. Inside of the nest, the player will need to shoot red, green, and blue bees. Another jiggy is hiding behind this vault. The player has to find 4 switches and explode them with the Clockwork Kazooie eggs. Also, screw the enemies here. They are paper-thin enemies that just kind of pop up out of the ground and attack the players with flowers. I also love how the stage connects with other worlds. When Kazooie destroys the Talon Torpedo Bowler, the water will float down to Terrydactyland, and good old Dippy will finally get his water. He will reward Banjo Kazooie with a jiggy. Another cool connection involves George the Ice Cube. He will ask Banjo Kazooie for a push so he can reunite with his wife, Mildred. However, his calculations were slightly off, and Banjo pushes him into the fireside. Unfortunately for George, he then falls into a boiling pit of water and dies. Well, that's 2 cases of Ice Cube murder now. I really like how Cloud Cuckoo Land, the connectivity with other worlds is just so neat. The music here is also pretty damn nice, especially on the outside. Finally, Banjo can now unlock Cauldron Keep and fight Klungo one final time. Klungo has a new potion to give himself copies. It still isn't that hard of a boss fight, but again, the dialogue of him getting a desk job to make video games, that gave me a chuckle. Now Banjo can move on to fighting Grunty. Almost. Before the beatdown commences, Gruntilda has Banjo participate in the Tower of Terror game. This will quiz the player on all sorts of Banjo Tooie knowledge, much like the Furnace of Fun. It's not quite as over the top, as it's simply just question after question without a board to run on, and Grunty apparently has no problem sacrificing her sisters and has Banjo participate in the speed round. When completed, Grunty will use the credits again as a form of escape. I still love that, it's pretty funny. The credits roll and Banjo uses the blow button and the big old blaster to give all the life back that Grunty stole, and gives Bottles his life back. This also restores King Jingling back to his previous state. Banjo also runs into Dingpot, which is a cool throwback to Banjo Kazooie. If the player decides to jump into Dingpot, he will store all the player's eggs and feathers. Here it comes, the big-ass final boss fight. I like it, but I think I prefer Banjo Kazooie's. Grunty will use the Hag 1 for the whole fight. She will start out by shooting electrical beams out of it. She'll occasionally ask questions before she pokes her head out and shoots magic. If the player can answer these correctly, she'll go easier on them. Eventually, she'll shoot out more electrical beams, arm the Hag 1 with mortar cannons, cranks up the drill, sends out minions, use toxic gas. Eventually, Banjo will have to use the Clockwork Kazooie eggs to get inside the machine and blow up the batteries. Eventually, Grunty will get ready to use her final spell, meanwhile accidentally revealing that her last name is Winky Bunyan. God, I love this game. When she is hit for the final time, she'll drop her spell in it, and it'll make the Hag 1 explode, meaning that Banjo Kazooie have won. The game shows a cutscene of Banjo Kazooie rushing to Bottle's house to not miss his party. Unfortunately, the party is actually ended, and everyone starts to get into a heated argument. Kazooie then suggests something fun that everyone can partake in. Then Banjo, Womba, Mumbo, and Jam Jars all play kickball with Grunty's decapitated head. She then says, "Just wait until Banjo 3." Man, too bad we never actually got Banjo 3E. I could have sworn that this line was replaced in the Xbox version with just you wait until Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, but apparently I'm wrong. I'm just thinking about the original Banjo Kazooie Xbox 360 version. So before I return to my initial question of my thoughts of Tooie versus Kazooie, I want to talk about some general things about the game, both good and bad. I'll start positive. I absolutely love how these worlds are connected. I think that pushing George the Ice Cube into the Hailfire Peaks water to cool it down was hilarious. I love how the Terrydactyland Jiggy for getting water for Dippy comes from Cloud Cuckoo Land. That's just so creative. I think that the kickball tournament that required Stony Banjo and Hailfire Peaks, again, just brilliant. In Jolly Roger's Lagoon, one could see the parts of the Grunty's industries through the windows. Feeding the Oogle Boogle tribe using the food in WitchyWorld just absolutely blew my mind when I was younger. It makes the whole game just seem like one connected world, and I love seeing how a change of one level can affect another. In my Banjo Kazooie video, I picked on a couple things in particular. One was the swimming, as I felt that it did not control that well in Banjo Kazooie. The second thing was that Banjo could not hold on to ledges, as there are plenty of jumps that I missed by just a hair. These two problems are virtually eliminated from Banjo Tooie. Once the player learns the bill drill, they can go back to Spiral Mountain and save their poor pet goldfish. When he's returned to the water, he'll give Banjo extra air bubbles, meaning that he can swim longer. He'll also teach Banjo Kazooie a new swimming technique that is pretty dang fast. Another thing that I could think of was the combat arena challenges, and those are just basically gone in Banjo Tooie. They were pretty clunky, and I would bounce off of one enemy right into another. But honestly, Banjo Kazooie was like a damn classic. That game had barely any flaws in my eyes. So, what's wrong with Banjo Tooie? Well, going back to my problems with Kazooie, I brought up that there was slight backtracking because Gobi's Valley and Freezeezy Peak had moves that were learned in one but needed in the other. Banjo Tooie laughs in the face of this and requires backtracking out the ass. Mayahem Temple can be completed in one go if one performs some crazy maneuvers, and Cloud Cuckoo Land only requires one visit because it's the last full stage. You have all moves by that point. But every other stage is going to have to be revisited at least once. Overall, it could be argued that the pacing gets a bit ruined as well. Part of me does miss the simplicity of Kazooie. You enter the stage, collect everything in one big swoop in roughly a half hour, then move on to the next stage. But at the same time, this is what Banjo Tooie does to separate itself from Kazooie. Also, a damn map would have been nice. These stages are pretty large, and even after playing this a handful of times, I could still get lost a bit. The other major thing that I would argue is the fact that some of the original's charm is just straight up gone. The Isle of Hags is a pretty decent hub world with a much better method of fast travel, but it's not just Gruntilda's lair, man. The cute little animation when a Jiggy is collected is also just gone. The fact that the items don't talk when they were picked up for the first time, that also makes me sad. Splitting up is also cool at first, but when Kazooie learns to glide, Banjo almost feels like a nuisance. Kazooie can jump super high, glide super far, she runs super fast, she can still use flight pads. She's just straight up better than Banjo. Towards the end of the game, I always look for split up pads just so I could trudge through with Kazooie. She can also still use the spring shoes, the shock pads, and the turbo talent trot. All of them are improved without Banjo weighing her down as well. Not the biggest deal, but I like how in Banjo Kazooie, they strengthened each other. At times, it just feels like Banjo just weighs down Kazooie in Tooie. One reason why I adore Pikmin and Pikmin 2 is because it actually lines itself up well for this argument. Meanwhile, they're very similar games, gameplay-wise and mechanically. They are still actually completely different games too, if that makes sense. Pikmin and Banjo Kazooie are the simpler and shorter games. If I have a free afternoon, knocking one of these guys out in just a day or two, so much fun. They're only a few hours long. On the other hand, if I want a long-winded game that feels more like a grand adventure, I'm gonna play Pikmin 2 or Banjo Tooie. Pikmin 2 has those caves that can take up to an hour, similar to Banjo Tooie's bigger worlds. They are so much more ambitious, but that does lead to the moment-to-moment gameplay. It takes a hit a bit. The new additions are very nice. Purple Pikmin, Ultra Bitter Sprays, the Grip Grab ability, better swimming, the better boss battles. But it does come with its sacrifices. I like how Banjo Tooie doesn't invalidate Banjo Kazooie's existence. I'll play either one depending on what I'm looking for that day. Just a few more things to wrap up, then we're done here, as this damn video has run way too long. The Stop and Swap has been implemented in the Xbox 360 versions of Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie. Stop and Swap is a feature that was originally going to be in the Nintendo 64 versions of Banjo Kazooie and Tooie. Rare was going to have the player switch game cards because earlier models in the Nintendo 64 could hold cartridge memory in their RAM for up to 10 full seconds. However, later revision of the Nintendo 64 changed this down to 1 second. The eggs can still be found in the Nintendo 64 version of Banjo Kazooie by inputting stupidly long codes in the Treasure Trove Cove Sandcastle, but they don't really do anything. In Banjo Tooie on the Nintendo 64 packs can be broken without the aid of a Banjo Kazooie save file. They will net Jinjo as a playable character in multiplayer, the amazing Breagle Bash, and homing eggs. An Ice Key can also be found to unlock a chest in Glitter Gulch Mine, which will have a Mega Globo. If this is given to Wumbo in the hub world, she will turn Kazooie into a dragon. This will change her appearance and the pitch of her voice. She can breathe fire and have unlimited fire eggs. A neat little Easter egg. In the Xbox 360 version, the eggs will be given to the player if they found them in the Xbox 360 version of Banjo Kazooie. The same rewards are given, on top of Banjo Kazooie nuts and bolts, blueprints, a gamer pick, and a Banjo Kazooie theme. Neat, I guess, but all the good rewards were already available in the original Banjo Tooie. The Nintendo 64 packs can still be found in the Xbox 360 version, but now they give the player bronze, silver, and golden eggs. I don't think they actually do anything, but I could be wrong. I would feel like this video is a bit incomplete without at least bringing these two things up. The first is Bottle's Revenge, which is only playable via hacking on the Nintendo 64 version. This mode will allow one player to beat Bottles and spawn enemies to attack Banjo Kazooie. Rare cut this mode, but it's still worth a mention as it's at least somewhat playable. Banjo Tooie also includes a multiplayer mode, which makes sense given how multiplayer-centric the Nintendo 64 was. I didn't get too much use out of this, but basically the mini-games in single player can be played with friends. A throwaway for me was probably someone's childhood out there. So, do I prefer Banjo Tooie or Banjo Kazooie? Man, I'm still not sure. That speaks to Banjo Tooie's quality, and I personally don't mind the bigger worlds all that much. It comes with the price of getting lost, but allows for more ambitious gameplay elements. Every stage gets a boss now? That is so neat! The worlds connect? This leads to cool puzzles like cleaning and warming up the kids' pool in Jolly Roger Lagoon. I just love exploring in general, and the bigger worlds means that there's, well, more to explore. Getting a Jiggy is arguably more rewarding in Banjo Tooie. I've already explained a couple of them, but Tooie makes the player work for them. I feel like my answer is kind of a cop-out. On the Nintendo 64, Banjo Kazooie is much better because the system basically just gets set on fire when Banjo Tooie is played. If we're talking about the Xbox 360 versions, I think Banjo Tooie wins by a hair. The stages are more ambitious, the stakes are higher, the mechanics are better, the interconnectivity makes the game feel like one whole connected world. I adore Banjo Tooie with all of my heart, and it gets a big fat 7 out of 7 from me. I'm gonna keep replaying this and Banjo Kazooie till the day I die.